Welcome, and today we're going to take a look at one of the biggest issues that I see between professional and amateur photographers, and that is the backgrounds of your images. So a lot of times people are just so focused on their subject and what they look like, they don't actually look to see what is in the background of their image. And we have a whole series of images that I've grabbed off the internet today that we're going to take a look at, and where there's an issue with what's going on in the background of the image, and simple little adjustments could have made dramatic improvements in how we view these images. All right, so we are in Photo Mechanic here, and I'm just going to go ahead into a viewer here. And this is the first image, and this is one of the most basic things in photography. And this really doesn't actually have to do with the background, strangely enough. So we're going to look down here on this image and notice we have cut off this woman's hands right at her wrists. Big no-no in photography, you don't cut off at any joint of a subject. So that's a big no-no. You try not to cut off your subjects at their elbows, their wrists, their knees, or their ankles. When you're cropping, it's fine to crop up here. You don't really want to crop in the middle of the arm. It looks weird because it's just like this arm that sticks out. Stay away from cutting off hands, cutting off feet, or cropping right at the knees. That's pretty much a no-no in photography, and something that I see happen all the time. So look at her, beautiful woman, beautiful image, really done well, but cut off at the arms drives me crazy. Okay, and this is a simple one, just a very clean, simple photo. But what's the problem here? The head is in the horizon line. Now, a lot of people are looking to get these perspective lines and put the subject in this image. But I think by simply squatting down a little bit and moving this subject up, this is going to look a lot better. Or getting up higher and putting the subject down here. You really need to sometimes, and it's not the worst in this image. It is kind of because the mountain jets up over here. But you don't want your subject's head in a horizon line, basically, in photography. Here's another one. We have the subject's head, the horizon line going right through the subject's head. It just looks odd. This is a little bit too dark. And then this is very subtle because you can't see it much. But if you notice, we have this beautiful light pole coming out of your head. So this is another issue, light poles coming out of people's heads, or sticks or branches or any information like that. Now, I think most people probably wouldn't notice this, but something I picked up right away. Now, this isn't the end of the world, and I understand that a lot of photography is candid and you can't control it, but this is something you need to notice your background and where you're positioning yourself as opposed to your subject before you ever take the photo. So in this image, it's really done very symmetrically and looks really good, but this lamp right here just seems out of place. It kind of intercedes with this subject, and I just don't really see the point of it. So simply just moving something like this, I think, would have made a whole lot of difference. So this has nothing to do with the shirt. So we've got this subject once again in the horizon going through his head. Also, if we notice, we have this nice line and movement. So we're creating some movement in the image, but this head kind of like stops that. It's in a weird spot. If this was me, I would have moved this subject. So I would take this subject and maybe place him over here in this beautiful space that we have right here. So simply all you had to do is move your body this way a little bit, and that would move your subject this way and get down just a little bit more. And that would be so much better as far as composition. And what you're going to see is a lot of this stuff is just minor movements that are really going to improve your photography. So you'll notice that when I look at a photo, it's just not the subject. It's just not the color. It's the background. It's the movement. It's the light. There are a whole bunch of different aspects that make good photography. So once again, this is kind of cool. We kind of have this person here, and we have them kind of being shaped by this bridge. But this is the problem. Why didn't this subject move her head down? Why didn't they get up to move this down a little bit more? Instead of having this bridge go through the head and this one fill it up. That's kind of odd. So just going up a little bit more, we could have had this arched right over top of her head, and that would have made a whole lot more sense. So here's where backgrounds can just be flat out destructing. So we have this kind of photo, and first of all, it's blown out, and it's blown out here, and that's not a huge issue. However, you will notice that your eye will go to white. I mean, this is one of the first areas in here where my eye went to. But this is the biggest problem. First of all, I'm not a big fan of the chicken wire, but this is our the subject. This is what we're looking at. Someone's trying to display this place, this food. And then we have this bright color in this dark black box, and it overpowers this because of the bright color. And then we have this kind of raggedy stuff in the background, which really is not the most pleasing photo. So this background, as far as color and texture, is too busy and complicated to compete with this. This is something where less is more definitely comes in effect. It's just, we want to keep it simple, and this has made it too complicated. So if we take a look at this image, there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of green. There's a lot of texture. There's a lot of texture in her shirt. And we just have all this weird stuff. So we have this plant growing into her arm, this one coming in front of her. And I understand this does create some depth, and I don't have a big issue with that. Then we have this kind of coming in here and filling her out. We don't really see enough of it to make sense. I understand it's probably hiding her legs a little bit. But my biggest issue with this are two things. First, the white planter, because your eye is going to go to the brightest area. So it's going to this planter and then to her face and then to this planter. Do we really want to have this as a white planter in this image? And then this ugly bag of gravel up here, which makes no sense. So just little simple things like this to clean up your images. So this is a simple one. It's just, was this the best place to place this subject in this image? So we have this nice pole growing out of her head here, and then we have this pole going through her neck here. So just distracting. There's definitely ways that you could move your subject or move yourself. Probably not shoot as wide angle would help a lot to get a little more depth of field, but to remove these poles and these lines going through your subject, which are distracting. So a lot of times when you shoot foliage, it's high key, meaning it's dark and it's black. It's dark and it's black. So it's very distracting background. So this might be beautiful. Everyone sees flowers. Oh, they're so beautiful. But when they're high key like this, all it does is cause confusion. So she's got a lot going on here, and the background is so busy, it distracts from her. It's brightly colored. We have this weird line growing into her head here, and then all this movement that we don't need, where we would definitely benefit from simplifying the background in this image to make it easier to look at. Here's a couple things here. So one, this strap coming out here is sort of odd. And this is another example of the horizon line going through your head, just not the place you want it. It's okay for the horizon line to go through here or even above your head, but this is so simple. You can either just get up a little or squat a little to fix that horizon line, and it's going to look a whole lot better. All right, and this is one of my favorite ones because I picked it up right away. So we're trying to take this beautiful thing of flowers, and we've got probably something that we're selling, and then we've got like a scooter or someone's leg or bike in the background. We need to just clean it up, wait for that person to move, or ask them to move so we can take this really simple photo. Hopefully this has been helpful, and you take a little bit of time to look at your backgrounds next time you go out and take some photos, because guess what? They're the main reason that most people ruin their images. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.